the tradition is to party. And we learned that tradition from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, who was buried in Maron. And every year on the anniversary of his passing, hundreds of thousands of Jews travel to Maron and camp out and cook lamb and party and drink and pray for that departed soul. It says that the soul, when it leaves this world, is in the world of truth. It goes into the world of truth. He can see everything and everybody through and through. So he's haunting us again. What can we say? The guy is still on top of the scene, and in a more revealed way, in a more in-your-face way than ever before. And he's here to help us. That's what his mission is, to help us on the family level, and the workplace level, and the community level. That's what Velva Ben Yaakov is trying to do right now. So we light a candle to connect with his soul. And then I'd like to ask people not to be shy, but to share some stories that that Bill brought into this world through his outrageousness, through his compassion, through his rage, through his everything that he was and is, stands on his behalf on this day, the day of the Yahrzeit. We call it the Hilula, the elevation of the soul. So by us committing to good deeds in our lives, with our families, in the marketplace, on the way to the marketplace, a smile, a shoulder rub, in his behalf, in his memory, this not only helps him in his elevation on today, but it also helps us as well. So I'd like to ask my friend, the Kohen, Eli Kohen, on behalf of his wife and his beautiful son, to come and lighten his Bill's Yahrzeit candle. The flickering of his soul. And it continues to flicker. That's flicker. Don't get it confused here. We'll put it right here. Can you zoom in on this?
Yeah, if this gentleman would slide over.
Billy John, you're in the shot.
Yeah.
I don't know, Willie John Burns too, though.
Quietly, Howard.
Exactly, I know.
Okay, so is there anyone would like to stand up first and tell a story, a Bill story?
All right.
Don't be shy, come on.
So this was many years after I had worked for Bill, but I was involved in rock medicine forever. I think about 11 years. But anyway, during that time, my husband had a stroke. He was very ill. And he could never come home. He was in a skilled nursing facility. And the bills were like up here. And I got so depressed that I checked myself into a hospital for 30 days. Because I thought I had no options. I didn't know what to do. So anyway, so while I was there, I called Bill, and he said, "Look, I'm really busy right now. The Russians won't let Jerry into Russia. I've got them on the phone. I've got this one on the phone. What?" I said, "I'm in a hospital. Blah 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 blah. Can I come see you?" So he said, "Yeah." With all that going on.
Right.
So anyway, so I went. Pouring rain. Oh, you have no idea. It was sheets. And so he said, "What can I do for you?" And I said, "Well, I'm in a lot of trouble financially." I said, "I owe Nicky. That was his attorney that worked at HP. He was the owner of my house. So I owed him about $5,000. Blessed man never once asked me for rent after Joe got sick. But I felt so bad, So anyway, and I said, and the home needs about $10,000. I said, but I have to tell you, I have no idea how I'm going to pay you back. It's like, hey, and he made it, you know, called somebody, and he came somebody with a check for $15,000, and I said, I will try, you know, to do this within this lifetime. He said, did you hear the word loan come out of my mouth? So there we are.
I did a lot of deals with him. Always, just before we shook hands, he said, now wait a minute, don't forget, I'm a Jew. And I said, Bill, you're wearing a Star of David. You don't have to tell me that anymore. But anyway, I called him up because I wanted to buy a house for my mother. She found the house. It was on the weekend. I was leaving on tour to Santana at 5:30 in the morning. I had to be at the airport. The real estate guy I met on the Sunday said he wanted to check on the Monday for the down payment of the house. Otherwise, the deal wouldn't close. You were the real estate lady? No. So,
Thank God.
the reason why he wanted, hopefully, that I couldn't come up with the money down to buy the house was that he had just put the sign up. My mother saw it and called me. And then I drove right away to look at it. And the guy thought he probably underpriced it, which he probably did. San Francisco, 2 flats, $107,000. This was about 35 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's in Excelsior now, it's worth 80. No, that's not. So, you know, I'm trying to sound like a pro. Anyway, I don't know where I was going to come up with the money, and it wasn't like I could just write a check for the amount I wanted to put down, which was, I was going to put down $30,000. So I called Bill Graham at home. The line was busy. I waited an hour. The line was busy. I waited another hour. The line was busy. Finally he said, yes. I said, Bill? Yes. This is Ray. Hi, Ray. What's up? I said, I want to borrow some money from you, and I need it on Monday. And he says, okay, what do you need? I said, $30,000. He says, okay. I said, what do you mean, okay? I said, when I worked for you, I wanted to borrow $200, and you sounded like I was trying to buy the film work from you, and you wouldn't lend it to me. And he says, well, I knew what I paid you. And I said, well, now I'm asking for $30,000. He says, you know, I've been on the phone all afternoon with that Steve Wozniak. And he wanted $3 million for me to go in partnership on the US Festival in Ontario.
Oh, I remember.
And he said, I was going to do all the work, all the group, handle all the production. All he had to do was put a few $1 million up. He wanted me to finance it too. So we went back and forth, and finally I said, when the concert's off, and I slammed the phone down. He said, Wozniak has it. He'll put up the money. And I said, so you just said yes to me for $30,000. I said, that's a lot less, Rick. I said, well, how can you lend me $30,000 that easily when you wouldn't even lend me $200? And then he told me again, well, I knew what I paid you. He said, the difference is now I know you got it.
There you go.
And it was a loan. The end of the story is, my accountants went in there on the Monday, they got the check, they took it over to the real estate office, they closed the deal, and Bill said, Ray, when you pay me back, pay me the same way I lent it to you. Ooh. I said, how did you lend it to me? He said, I gave your accountants $30,000 in cash.
Oh, boy.
So that meant either I cashed a lot of checks or I became a promoter, so I'd have cash under the table.
So how'd you show?
That's so good, Ray.
I cashed a lot of checks and I brought the cash in and put it on his table. And he says, thank you. He threw it in his drawer with the rest of his cash.
That's a good one, Ray.
Somehow, during the course of that time, working security for the soundboard on the dead and whatnot, I developed a little drug problem. And that might surprise you if you knew me then, but maybe not. So, and I felt like I was at my wit's end, and I didn't know any of these stories about Phil. I didn't know his generosity spirit that I'm hearing now. now, but I went to him in the office and I made an appointment. I went in and I said, I don't know if you know me. And he looked at me, he goes, of course I know you, Rose. And he goes, what do you want? I said, you know, I have this little problem and, you know, all I want is for you to give me medical insurance so I can go get help because I don't want to live this way. And he goes, I just can't do it. And I said, okay, no problem. And I started to get up and he goes, but I'm going to pay for your treatment. And he sent me to like an amazing 40-day treatment facility. He called every week. He sent tennis shoes when they told him that I didn't have hiking shoes, or that I couldn't take the walks. And, you know, it was so amazing that he did that. And then, like, I had a really big regret because it took me 6 more years after that to actually, but I have 20 years now. And it was a really big deal for me, and I think about him all the time, that he was such an amazing man. I felt so blessed to work for him, to work with him, to work with all the people that I did, and just so.
I never met Bill Graham, but I was tremendously influenced by him because of the music that he promoted. It totally changed my life, and it probably saved me from becoming an attorney. I'm in a men's group over in Berkeley. It's called the Sons of Orpheus. We have a tradition. We say, remember the dead by saying their name, their full name, 3 times as a group. I'd like to do that, but in its original name.
Velvo Ben Yaakov.
So say it once.
Velvo Ben Yaakov.
Velvo Ben Yaakov. We're all going to say it as a group 3 times in our loud voice.
It's Velvo.
Everybody stand up.
Okay.
Everybody stand up.
Velvo Ben Yaakov. Yaakov is his father. Velvo, the son of Yaakov. Velvo Ben Yaakov.
Okay. You want to start us?
Okay. Velvo Ben Yaakov. Velvo Ben Yaakov. Velvo Ben Yaakov.
My father-in-law told me that Bill said, it's not about the money, it's about the money. And I've read a lot of Talmud, and I've read a lot of Torah, and I've read a lot of truth, and that's one of the truest statements I've ever heard come from anyone. So shakoch to someone who can speak such truth.
Okay, Willie.
Change the pace. How about the time I helped Bill?
Here we go.
Let's hear it.
I was just here for 3 or 4 months, and I was going to do some visiting down in LA. Being a new guy, when I went to the airport, I took a ride around to see what parking area was near what terminal. And as I drove around, I see Bill's car parked along the side of the road, the terminal, and he had left 2 hours ago. So I parked my car, went down to the police station, and said, yeah, the guy just abandoned it there. So apparently, Bill pulled up, gave his luggage to the sky cap, and walked on in and left the car. So I went down with the police and call the office, got the key, parked his car. Well, that was once.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah. I was coming back from somewhere out of town, got off the plane, got into my car, started driving out. No, I drove it. I was back at the office. Bill says, while you were coming back, you didn't happen to see my car in the parking lot, did you? I said, no. He said, well, I'm somewhere on the 2nd floor. He sent me back. I had to drive back and forth through the entire parking lot to find his car. So, Bill helps, and he gets help.
Colleen, who's not here, who sends her regards, her back's out. But Colleen always tells the story. She was a receptionist for the company and assistant to Sherry at the box office. And somehow one day, I don't know, Jan and Rita are busy, everybody's busy, somebody's got to make lunch for Bill. So Colleen, okay, Colleen, you have to make lunch for Bill. Okay. So she, I don't know what she does, egg salad sandwich, something. She's making lunch, here's lunch. Bill, she hands him the lunch, and Bill looks at it and he goes, it's ugly. To which Colleen's response was something along the lines of like, fuck you. So now, this morning, we had like one of the great, to me, one of my great memories is going to be this morning. Because, and I knew it actually the other day, we met here, me and the rabbi and Leo from Don Ramon's, talking about the plans, and we're going to make hot kosher Mexican and the rabbis, Leo from Don Ramon's. I said, this is San Francisco, only for girls. So we're at the rabbi's, Leo's there, she's got two guys from her crew, a woman who works for the rabbi in the kitchen is there, and we're cooking, and Daniel and I went down to help out. And this older chef who's Alfonso, who's working, he's got Daniel and I, and he's got Daniel doing all the garnishes. And every dish, it's like, oh, a different garnish, and he's doing the garnish, and I thought, you know, really, Gavalt, this is food for Bill. If he looks down, he won't say, ugh, ugly. Now the other thing, I'm stealing a little bit of Rabbi's thunder here, but the other thing was, we're talking, we're just meeting these chefs, and this Alfonso, he's the father and the son, and Alfonso is in shiny patent leather shoes, and he says to the rabbi, you know, I'm in my dress shoes, we're here for this occasion, just to cook this food for Bill. It should be such an occasion. And he says, you know, my teacher, the Rebbe, he had a teaching that when we go out to the world, his rabbis, his emissaries, we should, among other things, we should always go with our shoes shine. So, you know, there's a lot of talk about how you do things, what you go about do things, and one of the things that was great about doing shows for Bill, and the things that was instilled in a lot of us, were those kind of details. And there was always a lot of talk about food and his experience as a waiter, and how the plate looks, and how the presentation. And if you ever went to the Carnegie Deli, it didn't have paper napkins, it had cloth napkins, you know. So the food was beautiful for Bill.
When we got it set up, he said, I have 15 minutes, so make sure, you know, it's short. So anyway, I just started asking questions, and I was a little bit nervous, you know, going in to see Bill, as you know, his reputation preceded him, and he wound up talking to me for an hour and a half about his life, and you know, some of the things I just read again in the book that Brian lent us about all the conversations of people and Bill's biography. I felt like I was going to cry during this whole interview. I mean, it was just amazing. So that was one of my experiences. And you know, when you were saying about doing something for Bill, I thought this is kind of a story about my husband. And Bill's nephew, you know, became quite ill. And so he called up Yosef. And he wanted Yosef to, you know, do something, also to be with Esther. And, you know, Brian just made me these buttons of the Rebbe, you know, and the Rebbe like we were saying, every rabbi has a rabbi. And our rabbi is Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Their rabbi is Bill.
He was a great rabbi. And teacher par excellence. So, you know, Avi was in a coma, basically, and not communicating. And my husband and Rabbi Drizzen, who worked with us in Berkeley at the time of the beginning of Nora, we wrote a letter with Avi's name, just like you just said Bill's name, but with Avi's mother's name. When the person's still alive, we asked for a blessing for the mother's name. And we asked for a blessing for Avi. And it was right before Shabbat, which, you know, Friday, you know, right before Friday afternoon, before Friday and Saturday, and what happened that Shabbat was that Avi, who'd been in a coma, all of a sudden woke up, said, where are my clothes? What am I doing over here? And Esther was there, and they just started having a conversation. He just woke up. You're welcome. And unfortunately, you know, it was his time. But he had a good vibe. He had a good vibe. So I really felt that afterwards, of course, Esther, in order, Rabbi Drizzle was saying to my husband, listen, you have to go spend time with us. You have to go spend time with us. Talk, she just was such a special woman. I mean, she still is, but I'm just saying. I got to know her at that time also. And she came to our house and she cooked the whole Shabbat for us. And she also did it, and my husband told the story about Bill. But my husband spent hours and hours being with her, and they developed like this deep affection. So we're all here to do things for each other. That's what the story was.
This is a big great story. I'm done. Okay. Bill did want to be the 5-star backstage host, and he was the best host in this room. And Peter, bless his name, and myself had the fun, the privilege, really the happiness to make all these ideas real. And Bill couldn't be great enough, it couldn't be big enough, and we had a crew, and he gave us the crew to make it happen. So this was Springsteen at the Coliseum. And for some reason, I don't exactly remember how it happened, but he had these wristbands. I think in order to cut down on the stopping, people had to buy wristbands first, and then when they bought the tickets, they got the wristbands on. And so we were having these thousands of wristbands. That, what do we do with these wristbands? Peter, I think it was Peter who came up, we're going to do a garden. So we're going to string these wristbands in backstage on the trailers, because I can't imagine. Somewhere there was a crew stringing all these wristbands, and then as I was putting the trailer and carefully dividing the distances so maybe we could do beautiful. I mean, that was Bill, and it had to be exactly. So making all these garlands, always hoping that there would be enough garland coming forever to string these wristbands. So I was standing up on the ladder last minute. We always squeezed as much into the time, as much. I'm sure that Greg was too much money, it took up too much time, too much crew. He said that I have to do. And so Bill comes walking, you know how he is, like he's got something else on his mind. He looks up at me on the ladder, sweating up there. He said, "Do you think you're going to be finished?" I said, "Trust me, trust me." He said, "Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to say." And we got it done because obviously we had it on video. I bless him for the wonderful person. For the wonderful, the generosity of making ideas happen, giving us the support, and really taking care of the bands. He cared so much about taking care of them. And making an environment that was comfortable when they have enough stress out there. And he loved the music, so thank you.
Okay. I was a crew with the production department, and I was hired by an artist, and it was great to be part of the Belgrade Museum in the 80s. So I experienced my teenage life, and I was young, and I wasn't I didn't have the sort of like a expectation. I just took it on. So one of the greatest joy for me was after the show to just go and just take it in. Like, it was so exciting to me that you just could feel the hum. So this is a story directly from Bill. This is not my story, it's his story. So he said, what are you doing? I said, oh, feel that hum. And he got it. He knew exactly what I was saying. He said, I have a story. He said, Aretha Franklin, at the end of the show, she didn't come out until everybody was gone. We were in Oakland Coliseum, and Oakland Coliseum has such a wonderful roundness. So at that show, I don't know if it was Bob Dylan, I don't know if it was, I don't remember, but there was dirt everywhere. He said, I recall that Aretha wore this white mink, and the cleaners, maybe one or two, opened the space, opened the road, and she just walked. This is great. I just loved it. So I feel very, very great that just got to know him, not only professionally, but also hear some of his tidbits. Because obviously when you always think about the person who's gone is true, when you call the person's name, the person is alive in your heart. And literally the deeds that is left behind. So there are beautiful things that they say in Africa or in the Middle East. As long as somebody talks good about you, of your deeds, or write a song about you, whatever that song is, that person is alive. So we are all here and it's just
Well, I have an interesting production story. I wasn't there at the time, but some of the guys that helped set up FM are still in the stagehand bit, and they have told me this story a couple of times. Seems that, you know, when they started doing the really big shows, Bill had to call the union because he just didn't have nearly enough people. He didn't really, it was kind of a love-hate thing. He didn't really like them, but he needed them. And so, you know, yeah, exactly. So, you know, he calls down there and they say, you know, so we'll send you electricians and carpenters and stagehands and projectionists. And so he's not really sure what all this means, but he says, okay, and they show up, and then he wants to get stuff done. And he tells us, got to go do something, and the guy says, no, I'm a carpenter. He tells us, got to go do something. He said, no, I'm an electrician. So he just gets better and better. And that doesn't go over that well. So the next time he's having a really big show, he calls down to the local, and he said, they say, okay, so we'll send you 5 electricians. He says, no, I don't want any electricians. And they said, we'll send you 5 carpenters. No, I don't want any carpenters. We'll send you 5 projectors. I don't want, what do you call this for? What do you want? He says, I want 50 stage hands. All I want is stage hands. I don't care about your departments. I want people who will actually do the work. I don't want people who are going to tell me that they can't do this, they can't do that. And from then on, you know, they worked out pretty good. They split it up, you know. He had some guys work, and the union had some guys work, and then he had FM guys work. So, you know, I thought that was pretty typical Bill.
He also took care of his audience, and my favorite Bill story was from way back in Winterland days. I was pretty new to rock medicine then. We had a girl come in from the hood who had come all the way up from Texas for dead shows and had been attacked on the street on her way to Winterland. She came to Rock Med, Bill came, put all of the security guys who were usually outside of the room out looking for the guys. I doubt if they all found it. But he came in, he spoke to her, he spent time with her. He said, if you find this guy, I will pay for you to come back and stay and go to court. And he took care of her. He really took care of her. That's one of my favorites. That's my warmest memory.
Okay, I got a story. Let's see. This is what I heard from Bill. It's a story about Bill and kind of civil rights oriented thing, which is my big thing about Bill. My thing about Bill was I always looked up to him because he was a social leader. And anyway, so he had this thing, the 25th anniversary of his company. I think there was a group called Bay Area Women in Music. They're doing a thing for him, and a lot of people are telling stories. So he told a story about he was a waiter up in the Catskills, and let's see. Okay, so then one night it's his girlfriend's birthday, and Harry Belafonte is singing at the hotel. So he goes up to Harry Belafonte, as a waiter after the thing. He says, "Oh, Mr. Belafonte, my girlfriend's having her birthday. We're having a get-together birthday party for her. After everything closes up at this little place where everybody lives, and if you can come by, it would be a very big deal for her." So he does it. He comes by. He sings her happy birthday. He hangs out for a little bit, and and from then on, Bill and Harry are friends. Harry, of course, was very influential in the civil rights movement. Worked with Dr. King and all that. Okay, so then, I don't know, 25, 35, 40 years later, whatever. Nelson Mandela gets out of jail, and he's going to do his first tour of the United States. He already does Wembley Stadium, and it's a big rock and roll, thing. And now he's coming to the United States, and the African National Congress is organizing his tour as he goes across the United States. And Harry Belafonte is the guy who's working with the ANC. So he calls in Bill to meet with the ANC at talk about the end of the tour. And so they're in this meeting, and they're talking about we're going to end the tour in Los Angeles, and we'll have a lot of stars and celebrities there. And Bill says, no. He says, listen to me. He says, you should end your tour in the Bay Area, because if you do it in Los Angeles, Nelson Mandela will get lost, and the celebrity with all the bands and all the the razzmatazz and everything. Come to and end it in Oakland. We'll put it into the Oakland Stadium. We'll get some roots music. We'll have Santana. We'll have John Lee Hooker. We'll have world beat ethnic music, and we'll do it for practically free. It was, I think, $5 to get in. And so that's what happened. That's what happened. It was an amazing, I was there, I helped, set up chairs and stuff like that. It was the greatest show I've ever seen. Because Nelson Mandela, at the end of his thing, he said, at the end of his speech, he says, okay, remember this. I have one thing to say, always remember this. He said, I love you. And that was it. Really, I'd never seen a revolutionary political leader in the speech on that note. Anyway, Martin Luther King has a very famous speech, talk that he gave once called the Drum Major Instinct. The Drum Major Instinct. And basically the whole essence of that spiritual talk is that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. And so Bill Graham was the greatest.
My story's a little later in life than some of these other great stories. Obviously, I was fortunate enough to have some of my greatest life transforming experiences in the audience. So I could speak as a fan to know that I'm a promoter myself. That's fairly medium-sized, big-sized shows. And all of us who put on shows are inspired by the spectacular nature of the Mardi Gras and New Year's Eve shows, and the shows that were really all about giving the fans back for what the fans had given PGP and Bill in his life. But I was a record label executive. I had artists that were signed to various artists, and I was always looking for to get something to fill more when the time was right, or on a bill at some time, and we never really get any juice from bills. But my record company one day got a large investment from one of the heirs to the Vanderbilt fortune. And about 3 weeks later, a bunch of people who chief financial officers, etc., were on my door in Sonoma saying, Bill wants to know if there's some business to do. So my story is, Bill knew he had the best nose for money. And I guess part of those piles of money that were in the drawer were allowed to allow some of these spectacular events that we were at, we were part of, allowed people to have experience with music that allowed so many of us whose life was transformed by the music experiences that we had. When you talk to kids today about an experience, they don't necessarily have the direct experience that we had in those days. When you would go, at any given moment, you could go to a show and that show could transform your life. And Bill was definitely a magician that way, where he would create the cauldron where all of the magic could be poured into. So as a promoter myself, in my own little way, I try to bring magic to what I do. And as a businessman, I always remember that knock on my door. And you know, people are paying attention to what's going on in the community. And so I thank him for his inspiration.
Actually got the ability to get into a New Year's show by decorating the Kaiser with crepe paper. Not only the hallways, but the main part of the house, balloons, everything under the sun. And if you go to the Grateful Dead family album, I believe it is, on YouTube, you can actually see pictures of the decorations in the hallway of the Kaiser. And the fact that, like, you know, we were all one. It wasn't like at Bill's shows, like, there were artists and then there were the workers. Like, if you went backstage, there was a massage person, and any person could get a massage. It was, you know, it could be a blue coat, it could be a production person, it could be the top level artist. And I, you know, cleaning up hurt myself enough, and it was a great thing several times. But, you know, the fact that he would put that much into just the little touches that were so beautiful. One year for live, I believe it was Clear Channel at the time, they asked us to have a meeting at the Fillmore to discuss what was different about doing a Bill Graham show and now. And let's just say I told them. I believe I was wearing a Laguna Seca Days sweatshirt, and I said, you know, early in the days we used to have these wild artistic shows with out in the campgrounds, and there'd be fire dancers in the middle of the night for the people in the campgrounds, not just the show concert itself, but there was late night entertainment. And we create these little cities where they would think of everything from showers to water. There was no $5 bottle of water. There was drinking fountains that my friend Lonnie put up. You know, and to see these, like, Laguna Seca Days go from nothing to a city of 30,000 people back down and nothing be left. All the trash gone, everything was great. Was always like a major testament to what he could do and what we all achieved and did together. And some of my other greatest memories, I told them, I whipped off my sweatshirt and they were like, oh my God, she's taking her clothes off. And I was wearing the earthquake shirt that it says, it's everybody's fault. And I said that was another thing that Bill taught me, was that we all have a hand in it, and it is all our fault. It's all our job to help. It's all us. You can't just say it's them. It's, you know, it's their fault, their problem. And then I said, you know, a few other things. But yeah, you know, just the fact that he would go to the point of making the hallways of the Kaiser filled with crepe paper and balloons and things, and we'd spend days doing it, having the most wonderful time. And he would always, like, have people do anything. You know, you would just suddenly be asked, hey, could you help put up a tent? And there'd be 10 of us suddenly putting up a tent, you know. Exactly. Or several different art projects that we helped with. Or my favorite was the Pelons that suddenly appeared backstage that are just t-shirt prints. But all of a sudden they became artistic decorations. And now they're collector's items, you know? But, you know, the fact that he would put so much, and you know, you hear bad stories about Bill and his temper and yelling and this, that, and the other. And a friend of mine mentioned that the other day, and I said, but you know, there was always that one thing, like the $1 million donation for the AIDS Foundation, where he matched what was made it the one big benefit we did. He's like, you know, you're right. At that point in time, it was so huge amount and such a huge thing to do. No matter everything eclipses, that is so huge, you know. And that was my boss, the best boss I've ever had.
But did he pay you?
Yeah, not enough.
There you go.
She got into the dead shows.
That's more, yeah.
The perks were good enough.
He nothing at the dead
The perks were good enough. Kindly one. Thank you all for being here tonight. Thank Lee and her staff for making this delicious lot kosher. Yes, we're delighted. So wonderful. It was made in our school. It was made in my wife's school, actually. So I want to say a couple stories here. One is, I always wanted to get Bill here, and he knew that I was after him for the buttonhole in for the menorah project, and it was like a cat and mouse game. Well, I once got Ray. Somehow I found out that Ray was Carl's manager. I couldn't get Bill to, you know, buttonhole a star, an entertainer to come down to menorah. But Ray says, yeah, we'll get Carlos down there. When Bill comes, what's the truth? What is it?
He came in one more time to see Bill.
Yeah.
And he was sitting out there and kept waiting and he kept telling Bill, the rabbi's out here to see you, Bill. He picks up the phone, he calls me, he said, Ray, the rabbi's in reception. He said, Ray, do me a solid. Now he used to say, do me a solid. Would you take the rabbi off my hands?
Oh yeah. Take the rabbi off. We showed him, didn't we? We showed him.
The rabbi comes in and I looked at him and I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Maybe like making a mitzvah or something. Yeah. I don't know. And he says to me, now it's your story.
So, I don't know what magic Ray did, but he got Carlos to come down to the menorah project that year. And
I spoke Spanish.
So I was always trying to get Bill's attention, get him for something to, you know, get him more involved in the menorah project. So him and myself were at the, was it just me at the airport? Yeah, I was at the airport flying from New York to San Francisco, and I look up, and there's Bill getting on the plane. I said, I got him for 5 hours. So I started in working on him, and as he was in line to get his, reservation, he says, Joseph, he says, wait till we get on the plane. You know, you come, you'll sit down with me, and we'll, you know. So I waited till about 4 hours into the flight. I come up to the first class or business class, wherever it was. He had five seats. His business operation was spread across the 5 chairs. And he saw me, he says, Joseph, sit down. He moved his books, his papers over. And he says, he was just eating his lunch, which happened to be, I don't want to say, shrimp and who knows what else. He says, Joseph, you want to, here, have some. I said, Bill, I'd love to dine with you, but I can't really have shrimp. Oh, he says, sorry. He says, Joseph, I want you to know, I may not do things the same way that you do things, but if it wasn't for you and your Hasidic way of doing things, I wouldn't be here, and all of us wouldn't be here. So it was a moment where Bill acknowledged and understood his Jewish connection, and that brings us back to the menorah. The menorah project. That's why I'm here today. That's how I connected to Bill. The menorah that's traditional, that stands on the windowsills of Jewish homes throughout the world, that proclaims the miracle. I mean, they were trying to wipe us out then. you know, the Greeks and Assyrians were trying to do us under, and the Jews turned to, the Maccabees turned to guerrilla warfare, and through a miracle, first they knew how to put up their dukes, these Maccabees, and they took care of armies that far surpassed.
You ever hear of muscular Christianity? Muscular Judaism.
So they took care of business, and then it was time for God to bring a miracle down into this world, which He did through the menorah. The oil was only supposed to last for 1 day. It lasted for 8 days. And so the message that we took from the days of the Maccabees to San Francisco, we took the menorah from the windowsill of Jewish homes and took it boldly, you know, with Bill Graham, with my mentor, Rabbi Drizzen and Zev Putterman, boldly out into the streets. And it wasn't easy. All the Jewish community were shrined. How could you go out with your underpants showing the labels, you know, showing your colors in the streets, you know, church and state? How could you mix the two together? And it went all the way to the Supreme Court. But Bill, the first year, he tried to accommodate the cries of the community, most of them the Jewish community, unfortunately. And they said, put it on private property. We know someone out in Stonestown, they'll give you the property out there, and we'll guarantee, we'll roll up our sleeves to bring out the entire Jewish community, all the organizations. They'll notify their communities, and we'll bring out the public. So on the basis of that guarantee, we said for peace in the community, we'll put it on private property. We went out to Stonestown. Bill came out the first night. There was maybe less than the amount of people that were sitting here. Bill turned around and walked out. He told me after the next day, he says, we're going back to Union Square. And that's where it's been ever since. And from that point on, the Mama Menorah gave birth to menorahs in Red Square, in Alaska, in Washington, in literally all over the world. And we won the court case that allowed the light of the menorah and everything that it represents, freedom of religion, not only for Jews, but for all mankind. And that miracles are still within our reach. And right over mind. All the messages of Hanukkah which cross over all boundaries of people. And this is and today this light show that Bill helped produce and put together with his production crew is literally in every major country, every major city. Small lights, big lights, car lights, little menorah lights, literally hundreds and thousands of lights are being lit in the merit of Bill's effort, So, I don't think any one mitzvah, any one precept from the beginning of when the Torah was given at Mount Sinai has accomplished so much in unifying not only the Jewish people, but giving this message to the world. And the concert still goes on in the thousands, and so I'm just so proud to be here with all of you that were in the trenches, with Bill. And I want to tell one more story. Did I tell you last year about the story about Esther cooking at Chabad?
Yeah.
Okay. So now I'm going to tell you, how about the story about the menorah when the fire? Did I tell you that story? Okay, you're going to hear it again. So I was on my way over to the East Bay, and I hear on the radio that Bill's offices, next door, were inflamed. right after Bill took his stand, because Reagan was going to Pittsburgh, and so someone torched his office. So I got off on 4th Street, came down to the offices. The firemen were, the office was on ground level, on the street level. So I was standing there with a bunch of other people. There's a fireman in the office with his axe, and I saw the menorah that we had, the replica of the Mama menorah, which was sitting on Bill's desk. And I said, give me that menorah. He says, who are you? I said, I'm Bill's rabbi, which is questionable. But it was on tape, and I had to use everything I could muster to make sure that guy gave me the menorah. And it was half the limbs of the menorah were already charred and burned, and so he gave me the menorah. Right then, sure enough, I could have it. The TV cameras came up to me, and they said, "Oh, you're Bill's rabbi." Do you think this was a terrorist attack? Anti-Semitic? I said, I'm just a simple rabbi. I don't know what caused or whose caused. I mean, that was partly I said right, but Bill was in Europe at the time. He came back. I'm sure he took a magnifying glass to all the news and all the media. And I got a phone call from Jan. She said, which is Rabbi, you're not going to want to hear or like what I have to say to you. But Bill wants you to bring the menorah back immediately. So I said, Jan, I wasn't trying to steal it anymore. I was just trying to, I said, of course I'll bring it back. He wants it right now. So I brought the menorah back. And it took me some time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in order to, because Bill was devastated by it, what happened. But I just want to thank Lee and all of you. This is so meaningful to be with you, and because we know that it's not always the front man that makes things happen. It's the people in the trenches that enable the oil to be put into the menorah and for the menorah to shine. And so, when is the first night of Hanukkah?
December 8th.
Sunday is Bill Gray Menorah Day. I hope that you spread the word that everyone comes down, because it's truly a tribute. Bill, I'm not sure he even understood the significance of what a powerful, what a bright soul that he has, what he brought down to this world. So please join us for the menorah, the Bill Gray Menorah Project. Oh yeah, there's the flyers up there. It will be very meaningful to Bill and all of us. Thank you so much. Oh yeah, stand up, let me everyone please give this lady your
After Bill passed, after Bill passed, that next